From high on a hill in Toledo, Oregon, this is Rhonda's Room, and I'm the hostess who loves you the mostest, Rhonda J. Every week or thereabouts, we bring you a new show from the world of Q, and the Q is a shortcut for LGBTQ, for those that don't know that. We share some stories and educate radio listeners about stuff they may not know. I mean, I might have a guest that they wouldn't dream that would be on this radio show. Who knows? It might even be a poker player. We focus on LGBTQ topics that provide encouragement, inspiration, education, and information for our rainbow community. Today we welcome Michelle Nastasis, someone who describes herself as the first known transgender professional poker player. And Michelle, thank you very much for joining us today. I understand.
Oh, not a problem. I'm glad to do this. Anytime that I get a chance to help out the LGBTQ community and to further other people's education, that's a win-win for me and a win-win for our community.
Great. Well, I'd like to go over some talking points. These would be talking points that I might use in interviewing somebody who's a transgender person. So what I'd like to do, and you share as much as you're comfortable with, is go through your transition story. When did you first think you might be? Has it always been? Where did it come from? And just kind of give us a bird's eye view of, or a word's eye view of your story about your transition.
Certainly. I've known since I was very, very young that something just didn't fit. And I didn't know where to turn. I obviously couldn't turn to my parents because my parents were children of the Depression era. So I couldn't turn to them. So I just kept it hidden inside and went into a very traditional male-dominated industry to try to prove just how macho I could be. And then I caught an absolutely lucky break approximately 25 years ago now. I happened to see a poster very near where I was teaching. I was teaching at a company-sponsored truck driving school and happened to see a poster that they wanted normal males for a social experiment and to go to a certain building on the campus of the University of Kansas in Lawrence, Kansas. So I said, oh, what the heck? I have some time off coming, so let's go talk to them about it. What I found out was that they were going to take otherwise normal males, dress them as a woman, and send them back to do their jobs, and then record how people's reactions and whatnot came about. Well, the first day, I was scared to death. And about halfway through the day, I felt this gigantic wave of relief come over me. I had never felt more comfortable in my own skin as I did during that first time that I was dressed as a woman.
Wow.
I reported my findings back to the handlers at KU, and they immediately sent me over to the professor, and the professor gave me those glorious, glorious words. You are a classic case of gender dysphoria.
Now, let me go back to that poster. Who was behind that poster, and what was the reason, the experiment? That's kind of a radical thing to do when you think about it, at least when I'm thinking about it now.
Especially in Kansas.
Yeah.
But it was done by the psychology department.
Uh-huh.
And it kind of was the brainchild of one of the students, and they wanted to see what the results would be.
So this was it changed
the course of my life forever.
This was an experiment like maybe this person was writing a thesis or something, and it was an experiment, but there just I'm trying to picture the others that were doing it also. Did you see them? What when you went out to do your job? What were you a truck driver?
I was, but I was also a teacher because I was a senior level driver. That occasionally you got asked to teach at a company sponsored driver training school.
Okay.
So I had the opportunity to take a summer and teach at the company sponsored school.
And where? How many
And
days did you teach? Where were you then wearing a dress? Teaching?
yeah, I was in the classroom, so thankfully I wasn't outside on the training pad. I was a classroom instructor,
What were the reactions
and
of?
I was teaching 6 days a week.
And how many were in that? How many took that poster and did that?
23 of us.
23. And did you see the reactions or their reactions separately, individually, or did you?
I saw 2 or 3 of the other participants. For the most part, we were scattered all over the jobs that we were doing. In my case, I was a couple of the participants only because of the proximity of the training ground to the campus.
Okay. All right. Was this filmed? I know. I'm just.
I wish it was.
I mean,
I really do. I wish it was. But the best thing that came out of it for me is that I now understood why I didn't feel correct in using these terminology. I knew something was. I just didn't have the vocabulary or the understanding to figure out what was wrong. And once I got that quote unquote diagnosis, I went back to my first wife, who was a nurse, and I said, "You know that thing that you and I have been talking about where I didn't feel comfortable? I think I know what it is." And she goes, "You're suffering from gender dysphoria." And I said, "How did you know?" She goes, "I've known for years." I said, "Why didn't you tell me?" Her response was pure, typical for her. Because you had to find out for yourself. You had to have your own eyes open, not somebody open them for you. You had to do it yourself.
Did you have experience? I mean, like, right? I read, talked to a lot of people transitioning stories. They would go in if they're young, their mom's closet. They would go in if they're older, their wife's closet, and we're talking about transitioning from male to female, and they would just wear their clothes in secret or in private, probably never going out. Was that part of that?
With my mom's stuff, yes. Because I always loved the silky feel of her bras, her panties, pantyhose. I always loved that, and still do to this day. As my wife Sue will be the first one to tell you that I have an extensive collection of lingerie that I wear when I go to play poker. And as far as my first wife and also my second wife is concerned, once they got an idea, both of them helped me start to develop a sense of style. They helped me by getting my first wife got me my first bra, got me my first pair of panties, my first dress, my first skirt, my first top, and she taught me how to walk in high heels. So I had the full love and support of my first wife. and my second wife knew me only as Michelle, so that was easy. That was an easy transition there. My current wife, Sue, only knows me as Michelle. She knows my dead name, but she only knows me as Michelle.
Okay. Did you seek medical treatment? Did you have to go through process of hormones, or can you share something about that?
Yes. My first wife, because she was involved in the medical profession, helped me start at least the mental health side of it. Unfortunately, she got very, very ill and eventually passed away. So she wasn't able to help me from the medical, from what I call the chemical side of things. She with the, but she didn't. She was not around long enough for me to start the hormone therapy. That was reserved for my second wife. My second wife, father, was actually a life skills coach for transitioning girls. He's probably helped 50 or 60 girls over the years in Fresno.
Okay. What did you change your job? Did you keep your
Yes.
the same job?
I had to retire from being a truck driver due to a very, very serious back injury. And I walk away from that business while I could still walk.
Okay.
And I was still playing poker fairly. And at the time that I ended up with my second wife, it was poker was still a very, very big part of traveling a lot for it, and also doing the show, and also doing LGBT to professional groups. I Fresno State with their psychometric on LGBT awareness. So once you start down that road of advocacy, your story takes on a different tone, a different meaning, and to me, you have to be an advocate for the community because in so many ways ease the pain of transition. And all of the guys and girls that have transitioned, you've heard this before.
Yes.
The transitioning is probably the hardest thing that you will ever do in life. And if you have a great support system, it makes it easier. If you become an advocate for transitioning guys, transitioning girls, it makes your transition so much easier when you're able to get out there and tell your story. Don't be afraid to tell your story.
And you find your
open up and share.
And you find your community.
Yes.
And you use whatever means to be an advocate, whether it's, well, I'm not sure about, well, today, social media and all, in many ways, joining groups. Was there a P flag? Did you have any benefit from becoming a member of P flag, or was it from an educational standpoint?
Well, where the groups that I was involved with, one is one of the biggest transgender advocacy groups in the Fresno area, and that's an organization called transemotion.org.
Okay.
And I sat on the board of directors of that for 3 years.
You were definitely gung-ho, so to speak, with that. Yeah.
There was another group in Fresno that they merged into another organization, but that was the organization called Gay Central Valley.
Uh-huh.
And they helped me get speaking gigs as an advocate. I was also part of what they call their LGBTQ advocacy team. As the trans member of the team, there was usually 4 or 5 of us that would go out to speak to professional groups. That the 5 of us appeared on TV. We appeared on Channel 24 in Fresno, also in Fresno. And so the advocacy part of it really does help you with your transition. You have that secondary and third level support group that you can fall back on. You ask questions of people that are a little farther along down the road. And it helped me in so many ways.
I'm so glad that you had the benefit of that, and you had your niche when you were developing yourself. How far had you gone with your poker profession at that time when you were advocating like that you were talking about?
I had just turned pro.
Okay.
I was playing as a serious amateur, and that's when I made the decision that I wanted to look into it. The people in the Central Valley that knew me as a very, very fine poker player, they opened up the doors. They opened the doors to me and said, "Yeah, you've got the talent to play at that next level." And it's been a 9-year slow climb up the ladder to be able to get to be able to have the skills necessary to compete with the best of the best of the best. Excuse me. People don't realize what kind of skill it takes to compete with the Phil Hellmuths of the world, the Chris Moneymakers of the world, the top players of all time. Yes, you can plunk your money down, sit down, and play in a tournament with them. But to compete on the same level as them, you have to put in your time. You have to put in the hours. You have to put in the study. You have to put in the work. And I did. I still do to this day. I study probably 2.5 times as much as I play.
So how do you study? How do you study something like what you're talking about? What's the means, the mechanism, the methods to study between actually playing?
Well, the first thing is that write down what is called hand history. And in my case now, I have 2 different coaches for 2 different aspects of a hand. One is the actual physical play of the hand. I have one coach to review that. Then there is the mathematics involved. The pot odds, the implied odds, stack ratio, all of the mathematics that I can do in my head. But when you write down hand history and have a third party look at it, that's where the education comes in. Knowing that if you're not getting the right particular odds, then the game becomes much tougher.
So you have you have coaches that sit as spectators and keep track of these things, similar to somebody that's playing in major tennis tournaments where they have their coaching team, and you see them on TV, and they're keeping track of whatever, or maybe they're just sitting there in that case looking beautiful and wanting to be on camera. Your coaches must do an awful lot of work, and they're right there. And how many coaches would you have in a particular now, say?
Actually, I have three coaches. One, like I said, to handle the physical hand play, one to handle the mathematics, and then one to handle the mental game.
Okay. Do you interesting? It's fascinating. I had no idea. And they travel with you to your tournaments, and you get together and go over the results and all that, right?
Well, what's really funny is that all of my coaches are all world-class professionals in their own right, and my physical hand play coach has won 4 World Series. He also has 2 World Poker Tour titles and is widely considered one of the most straightforward teachers in the game. The guy that handles my math for me is considered one of the top cash game players in the world. And then my mental game coach is she is just absolute gem when it comes to understanding the math, or not the math, but the mental side of the game. She is an accomplished author and speaker. And here's the other thing about my mental game coach. She is a stroke survivor. So, and she's a licensed psychologist on top of everything else. And I lean on them for a lot of the education.
Do you have a physical regimen that you keep up when you're at a tournament? I mean, is this certain diet, sleep? You don't need to give away any secrets and anything, but I'm just curious.
Oh, no. One of the things that, especially if you're going to be playing in Las Vegas, and especially at this time of the year, one thing that you absolutely have to pay attention to, and that is you must stay hydrated, because the mental energy that you expend is the same as I can't even begin to give you a word for it, but you expend a tremendous amount of mental energy. You're not able to get up and all that often and go to the counter and get a bottle of water unless the cocktail waitress is coming around, which is very infrequent. So what I do is that I have what I call a tournament bag. And in my tournament bag, I have several pre-mixed bottles of Gatorade that I mix myself. I also have some high-energy snacks. One of my favorite to help keep my mouth moist during a tournament is that I carry a big bag of lifesavers with me. And occasionally when you start to get hungry at the table, you don't want to eat anything heavy. You just want something to nibble on. And I have found that things like Nutter Butter cookies or even Pepperidge Farm Goldfish cheddar crackers are just enough to hold me over until I go on and primarily my diet when I'm on a dinner break is a salad. I don't like eating a heavy meal because it tends to make you sluggish. Eat something light, eat something healthy, and then you're back ready to hit it for another 5 or 6 or 7 hours. A typical day in a major poker tournament can be up to a 14 or a 16-hour day at the table.
Whoa. Are you allowed to snack when you're actually competing, right? When you're at the table? I mean, can you grab
Yes.
something? Okay. All right.
Yeah, you're allowed to snack at the table, so long as you do not get the crumbs on the felt.
Oh,
That is a big time breach of etiquette, and you get dirty looks from the dealer. You'll get dirty looks from the other players. You'll get dirty looks from the floor manager. So a lot of times, what you'll see players do is that they'll have a small tray table sitting next to them. And what I do is I also carry a small plastic bowl with me so that I can turn my head and lean back away from the table, grab a handful of the goldfish, or if I'm getting really real dry mouth, I'll grab a couple of lifesavers and pop them into my mouth to keep my mouth moist.
I don't imagine it's a smoke-filled room like people in.
Actually, it's not.
Okay.
It's just the opposite. Practically every casino in the world now, as far as their poker room is concerned, they are 100% smoke-free.
Okay. All right. So if somebody was a chain smoker, they would have to stay smoke-free for quite some time. And are there food breaks?
Yeah, usually it also depends on the length of the level, but for the most part, you'll get regularly scheduled breaks. Usually every 4 levels is pretty much the standard. Sometimes it's 3, but most times in bigger tournaments, it's every 4 levels. And the level can be anywhere from 30 minutes to 2 hours.
Anything coming up on television that we might see you in, or is
I was just featured in not too terribly long ago in 1, 2, 3 episodes of the World Poker Tour. I was a member of the first of its kind Women in Poker Summit, which was hosted by the World Poker Tour last summer.
uh-huh.
And we held a tournament after the summit, and they showed bits and pieces of the heads-up battle for the title between World Poker Tour Executive Director Matt Savage and myself.
Okay.
And our heads-up battle ended up lasting almost 5.5 hours, but they condensed it down to I think they showed maybe like 5 hands total,
Hey,
and over the 3 episodes, and it was really, really cool to be on there. And I would go to the grocery store, and people coming up to me, "Oh, I just saw you on TV."
Michelle,
And
Michelle,
you have to worry about stuff like that at times.
Michelle, guess what? I got so wrapped up in this, I've just about lost track of time. I am
No worries.
so
I saw it
enthralled.
myself out of the corner of my eye.
I am so enthralled with your story. I want to thank you so much for joining us today on Rhonda's Rainbow Room. I think I'm going to skip the rest because I'll probably get in trouble about promoting the station and all that. So people just send money, lots of it, much as you can. Bring it in bushels and bags. Thank you, Michelle. I appreciate this education, and I consider it a real education, and I would like to schedule you at a later date and just talk.
Not a problem. Be happy to do it. Just let me know when, and I'll clear the schedule for y'all.
Thank you. Have a great, wonderful day. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank y'all. Appreciate it.
Bye-bye, everybody.